All right. Hello, everybody, and officially good afternoon. It is 12:01. We're watching the snowstorm very carefully. We will be posting up details when we get them, but we've got that winter storm warning that's in place. So go easy if you're going to be out traveling this weekend. You've got the Aired Out podcast. Yeah, live from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street, Barrie. I am so excited and honored to bring this lady on the line with us right now, live on the Aired Out podcast. Kimberly Quinn, a very good afternoon to you.
Oh, good afternoon back, Judy. Thanks for having me.
You know, I got to say, you refer to your students as rock stars. You really, my lady, are the rock star. What you're doing here in little old Vermont is now really starting to shake things up, and everybody's talking about you over at Champlain College and beyond now.
Oh, wow. That's just good news. You know, we obviously, can benefit from all the positivity we can muster up, I'd say, right, JD?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm not sure if, are you familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza?
I feel like I am. Can you fill me in a little more?
He is just very aligned with everything that you're doing from a neurological standpoint. He's a neuroscientologist or whatever you call it. But he's just an amazing man, and he fully grasps everything that you preach, you practice. You have quite a story. In March of 2020, just a short time ago, when Champlain College went remote, you launched your own weekly podcast. Is that still happening? Is that still going on?
Oh, absolutely. It's still going on. I'll just tell you, it's kind of funny, JD, because it's actually one of our young adult daughters who came up with that. Because when the world, closed, I had to kind of come up with a way to support the wonderful Champlain community. And I said, "Are you nuts? A podcast? I don't even know how to turn the thing on, right?" And then by that afternoon, we got it rolling, and now it's being listened to in 52 countries, last I checked.
That's amazing. And half the listeners are outside of the U.S.
Yeah, it's it's gone up a little because I've added a Champlain College signature series, so about 60% are U.S., and then those 52 countries make up the other 40%.
And what does that look at what that tells you? I mean, what does that tell you? That this is something that is just so needed.
Oh gosh, I can't tell you enough, JD. Same thing with what you're doing, and with everything going on in the world. The focus tends to shift because, of course, we're primed to think negatively. Yeah. So it's neurologically speaking, as I'm sure you know. So it's a little bit heavier lift, But like anything else, once we practice anything, right, playing the violin, cooking, skiing, whatever, we get better at it. And I think people don't always realize we can practice positivity, practice honesty, practice all these things, and actually get better at them.
And this is something that Joe Dispenza talks about a lot, that you can basically trick your brain. Your brain operates on just remembering a pattern. And if, for example, you have your students write basically a journal of what they're grateful for, this gratitude journal.
Oh, yeah. And, Jade, and actually, as I think you know, I tell my students, I don't ask them to do anything I'm not doing myself. And I write in my gratitude journal every single day, and I'll tell you that there's something called the 20-second rule you may know of, and that actually comes from Sean Ager. That's not mine. So if you make something within 20 seconds easier for yourself, you're more apt to do it, right? So my gratitude journal sits right on the windowsill, so I have to walk by it to get out of the bedroom in the morning. So every single day it's I am grateful for, I am grateful for, I am grateful for. And then the neurons learn this pattern, like you say. And psychology fun fact is it takes about, on average, 21 days for a new habit to shift. Wow. And so students, so about 3 weeks into the Mindcraft class, I'll ask them, and they're like, "Oh my God, wow, I'm starting to, and I'm not even aware of it. I'm starting to see all the good things in my day more than the bad things." And it's true. It's a neurological truth, not just a touchy-feely kind of thing.
Yeah, and you talk about that. You say it's not touchy-feely, it's neurological. This is amazing. And the testimony that I have read in this incredible article, by the way, in 7 Days, which was published last October. I've kept a copy of this. I've reread it several times, read it again last night. The testimony that comes from your students just over at Champlain College alone, where you're a professor, and basically it's positive psychology. You teach your students how to reprogram their brains to become happier, healthier, be more mindful, be more resilient with anxiety and depression, which we say frequently, especially with the global pandemic, and even before the global pandemic. This is something that's sitting on top of so many of our shoulders.
Yeah, it really is. You add the pandemic in, JD, and it just adds to it. But as you know, with this current young adult population, it's even before the pandemic, it was the most anxious and depressed group of young adults the United States has ever seen. So then you add the pandemic in. And of course, our media-saturated society, but that's a podcast for another time.
Yeah.
That's a big conversation. But they really do need some tips and tricks, which they get in Minecraft to climb out of that. They need that.
And Mindcraft, the official name of the course that you're a professor of over at Champlain College is what now? Mindcraft, the psychology of, what is it now?
It's, I always have to say Mindcraft, too. I have some funny stories about that, because the gamers tend to think Minecraft, right?
And you had a gamer show up and register for your class and ended up, and then not understanding what it was about, and ended up sticking with it and loved it.
And loved it, and was actually one of my most. I have very interactive rock stars anyway, but he became one of the most actively involved. He crushed it, and he thought it was pretty funny. Yes, I lost you with the other question.
But it's called the psychology of optimal human functioning
and life satisfaction.
Wow, what a mouthful for a course.
Well, yeah, the students usually just call it Mindcraft, but there's also a Minecraft 2 that's out as well. That'll be I'm pretty sure they're running it next year. So
you talk about the prefrontal cortex, you talk about neuroscience, you talk about pattern recognition, and that our brains are basically a machine of this, and the phenomenon known as the Tetris Effect. Is that what you were just mentioning a little while ago?
Yeah, that also comes out of one of the books that I use for Mindcraft, which is The Happiness Advantage by Sean Akers. So that 20-second rule thing is part of it, and that leads into, with the gratitude journal example, the Tetris Effect, yes. And so that got its name from the video game Tetris, which is, of course, about putting, shapes and colors, coordinating the pattern that you're talking about. And the brain does that automatically. So that can work for us or against us. So basically in Sean's book, they found that accountants, and no offense to accountants, we need them, especially this time of year. But when it was found that when they were, their whole jobs are around searching for errors all day long. Oh. It's just, looking, and they found with accountants, they then transferred the pattern of looking for errors into their lives, looking for defects in their partners, in their kids, in their coworkers. And so when we flip that the other way around with the gratitude journal, the Tetris Effect it only takes about 15 minutes with the real game for that to start to happen. So with the gratitude journal, the Tetris Effect is what JD, is that students start to see, or any of us, right, start to see once we're rewiring our neurons, the positive rather than the negative. And like anything else, too, we practice it, we get better at it, but also it takes less maintenance. Like you're playing the guitar, you have the calluses for a while, then they go away, and it gets a little easier to play it. So it's the same with the positivity. It gets easier to maintain the positive outlook.
And you do this every day yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Is it difficult at times when the shit is hitting the fan and things are getting heavy in life, and maybe you see that journal and you're like, I'm not into it today. I don't want to write anything down.
Does that happen to me? To be honest with you, no. Do I have hard things happen? Of course, we all do. But I actually encourage my students to do this. When you have a really hard day, let's say you have a horrible curveball thrown at you. I have a default. I encourage them to have a default gratitude. So let's say you're having a really hard time coming up with, big ones, right? So you can always be thankful for your breathing. Like I'm back. And for me, my default is that one and also my eyesight, because my youngest brother-in-law, who I adore, is blind. And I don't think I've seen him in a bad mood in 3 times in his life, and he's 50 years old. And so for me, if I'm having a day where there's some curveballs, some life stuff, and that's not pleasant, I go back to my eyesight and how much different life would be to be him.
Isn't that amazing? Incredible. Your podcast, back to that just for a second here, you cover topics like smiling and laughing and creativity, self-expression, mindful giving, healthy sex even. And one of the things I find interesting here is reading the 7 Days article, the sweetness of just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Being quiet.
Yeah. All these topics are just, very important, I think. Inspiration comes from everywhere. So I kind of just land on something that seems relatable and go with it.
What about Mindful Times, this newsletter? Is that something that folks outside of Champlain College can subscribe to, can get?
Well, they can. I don't have any kind of real, to be honest with you, JD, I don't have a real plan for that. I have had on small scale word of mouth. Sometimes people will find my email, and I add them to the list, manually.
Sure.
I don't have any, at this point, I don't have a way to mask, but when people send me they reach out to me, they find my email on the website or wherever, I do respond to them. I respond to every single person who reaches out to me for that, and I just add them to the list.
Kimberly, you have a wait list of people trying to register to take your course at the Champlain College. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it comes and goes based on what's required and things like that. But even before Mindcraft, when I taught a positive psychology course, which is very similar, not exactly the same, but very similar, it was the same back then. And in fact, my then program coordinator for psychology ended up adding sections, especially in this current semester we're in, because it's dark and cold and a lot of seasonal affective, stuff going on with anxiety and depression. He actually added sections back then because there was such a need for students in this particular, winter semester. They're craving it. Obviously, they really need it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've got the cold, we've got the dark, that lasts for, 7 months here in Vermont. In mud season, right in front of us, we're just craving to get that vitamin D, to get that sunshine, get out, get some fresh air, move around. This weekly club that you have created, Defense Against the Dark Arts, tell us about that.
Oh, that's great. Boy, wow, you've done your homework, JD. I'm pretty impressed. I'm usually the one interviewing, and you're way better at this than I am.
Well, this is when you put on the purple wizard hat and gown, right?
Yeah, I did that last night, actually. I have to tell you, this is a fun thing. It's something I absolutely love about Champlain, is the club's been going now for, I guess 2.5 years. Started before the coronavirus, so 2.5 years or maybe 3, something like that. And I go walking right across campus during peak. It goes from 5:30 to 6:15 on Thursday. So the students are there and dinner, and they're walking around everywhere. Not yet, not once has anyone ever asked me, "What am I doing in a wizard suit?" Well, so I think it's very funny.
Now, is this is kind of similar to the gorilla outfit, invisible gorilla experiment, right?
It's not similar. I mean, what's similar is they're used to me walking around dressed up, but the invisible gorilla suit is actually different. That's for a cognitive psychology course I teach, and it's after that famous experiment. So when we cover that, I show up to class in a gorilla suit. Usually, a few of them jump rather high, so that's kind of entertaining. But it drives the point home. So they're different, but both fun.
And the point being that it kind of shows, it demonstrates that our proclivity to overlook the obvious, right?
Yeah, exactly. Wow, you have done your homework. Yeah, it's about, we walk around very out of it, which actually, even though that's my cognitive psychology class, they relate well. When students take them both at the same time, that's the best recipe, because we do walk around very out of it with the selective attention thing, and that's actually inattentional blindness. But it relates to Mindcraft too, because Mindcraft is all about living deliberately and not being out of it. You know, when we're on autopilot, we're missing out on our lives. We're losing our life minutes, which there's nothing more valuable than our life minutes. And when we're out of it, you know, none of that is making it to long-term memory if we're on autopilot.
Amazing. You don't talk about this often when you're teaching, but you've had a very heavy life as a child, extremely dark, which begs to ask, I mean, how are you living this life, finding the glass half full, the sunny side of things? How are you able to be so positive? Is this something that you've just got genetically, or does it take daily and maybe even sometimes hourly practice?
That's a really good question, JD, one I've had before too. And I think genetics, whenever we're talking about human or non-human animals, we can't really separate genetics, obviously. So I do have a very happy-go-lucky disposition. However, happiness is absolutely a choice. And like anything, it takes work and it takes effort. And as a small kid, I also had a very strong spiritual connection and leaned heavily on that. And also my rooftop friend and I had each other, thankfully, from about 4 years old on up, and still we talk every 2 weeks.
Wow.
And that support was great. But yeah, I mean, it's really, honestly, I actually just did a video today about this for the Mindcraft YouTube channel. You know, finding that high vibe frequency every single day, because you know, and realizing that this day is not attached to any other. It's not attached to the past, and it's not attached to the future. This day, this gift of life minutes on this day is not attached to anything. And when we look at it like that, and what a gift it is, it's kind of easier to, you know, just embrace it and run with it.
Your rooftop friend, you used to basically escape to the roof of your home, which you say at times made you feel closer to God, but basically a chance for you to just escape everything. But then later on, you took a turn. You decided to get more connected with God. You did some alone time in your car praying, and you decided to start taking a right turn instead of a left, which would have been so much easier to go left.
I guess maybe it might have been. I didn't ever contemplate doing anything terrible. You know, I was just more in survival mode, kind of, you know, living out of the car and stuff. And the thing is, JD, is I also sought out I don't think I was consciously thinking this, but I had a lot of good people entered my life, and I think I just sought them out, and they're just, you know, angels, because we all need support. I mean, I don't care who you are. We all need support. And I just had really, really good people. My rooftop friend's mother was very good to me. And then, of course, at St. Mike's, I just landed on tons of angels. And now at Champlain, you know, my professional home, I'm also surrounded by really, really good people. And the thing is, shame is the key thing, right? Yeah. Shame tells us we're defective and flawed, not enough, you know, that we're worthless. You know, that's what shame says. And I had a childhood based in shame for sure. But here's the thing, is that shame doesn't stand a chance against genuine, you know, love and compassion.
Yeah. Well said. You one of the things that you teach your students is, I can't remember what you call it, your bag of tricks or something, where there's literally physical massage that you can do in parts of your face that is, and there's been studies on this, that it's like a direct fire and wire to certain neurons in your brain, and it has massive, powerful effects. And I'll be honest with you, I'm generally a skeptic, but in reading about this, it's fascinating. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, for sure. There's lots out there about stimulating the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs through the entire body. And when we kind of activate that, it deactivates the limbic system, which is, of course, the culprit for the anxiety circuit, the fight or flight, which we need to survive too. But it stirs up. So when we stimulate the vagus nerve, so there's some tricks which when we practice mindfulness, of course, in every course I teach. So after we do 1 minute of mindfulness, I have students come out of that Zen mode with these little exercises. This whole thing takes less than 2 minutes, because I don't want to encourage them to be mindful, and then you bring the mind out into like hitting a brick wall. You want to ease out of it, so the mind wants to be mindful and be in the present. So when we come out of the mindful minute, I say, okay, now it's, ease out gently and rub our eyelids, firm circular motions on the eyelids, and that stimulates the vagus nerve. It's an immediate calm down. And then the other one, and I watch them, they're all rubbing the outer periphery of their earlobes across the whole class. And this also does the same thing with the vagus nerve. There are lots of ways to stimulate the vagus nerve, but if you're going to be, going through your day and your life, working or whatever, these are things you can do while you're in a boring meeting, on a date, whatever, and it's just an immediate calm down, very visceral.
The worry circuit headquarters, I think you referred to it as.
The limbic system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Go ahead.
No, it's just amazing to hear this.
Well, the limbic, of course, being with my doctorate in cognitive psych, I'm just everything about the brain fascinates me, right? But I think it also helps when I explain this to students, JD, because I actually have brain toys. I have one that lights up, actually. I just used it a couple of days ago. When they can understand, I can actually show them where in the brain this is happening. When they actually see that this is physiological, much like a diabetic has something going on. The pancreas isn't working properly, and insulin, little islets of Langerhans aren't making enough insulin, and da-da-da-da. It helps to really separate the underlying shame that comes with whatever it is that's extra to deal with, the anxiety, depression, ADHD, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll explain to them, it's not the anxiety, depression, whatever that really brings us down. It's the underlying shame. And so when they see that there's a part of the brain, and actually when we're talking about specifically anxiety, that anxiety circuit is self-reinforcing. It's a loop. So each and every time you cave into the what-if thinking or the catastrophizing or whatever, it self-reinforces. So when they understand that, it helps them, they still have to take accountability, but it helps them to realize, then actually have them say something. It's not me, it's OCT. It's not me, it's obsessive-compulsive thinking. It's not part of JD, it's something in the brain, and it helps them to detach from that feeling of being flawed and defective.
Yeah, we've got a lot of labels. We've got a lot of stamps.
A lot of labels.
ADHD, which I think you were stamped with yourself, hyperactivity and all that stuff. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, stamped with that, and thankfully, St. Mike's and Champlain have wrapped around me like a burrito with that, but obviously, younger, there certainly was lots of negative, and in fairness, people back then didn't really get ADHD very much, and certainly if you didn't fit the mold of Dennis the Menace, which actually I kind of did, female version, but they didn't, if you were a girl with it, they weren't going to figure that out.
Yeah, of course.
Back then, I'm a fabulous 57, they didn't know anything back then.
Do your students come in to class on day one and say, oh, man, really? We got to sit in a circle? What's this all about?
No, they don't, actually. And I'll tell you, I've been teaching in a semicircle forever. And I had in a whole different class, actually at a different college even, I had a behavioral, something educational, I forget her title, but she said, "Wow, this is the number one most effective way to teach from pre-K through higher education."
Wow.
For all different reasons, obviously. No, that they have no tables in front of them. Their phones are beneath their chairs because that's an automatic. And this way, they're open. The body language is open, and it's an interactive discussion-based class anyway. And I've had every once in a while you get a student that says, "Oh, I feel a little," but then they're fine in a couple of days. And mostly I get a lot of positive feedback with it, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
They like it. It feels intimate, and especially at Champlain. And no offense to the larger universities or anything. There's pros and cons to both. But one of the benefits of a small school is that kind of attention and intimate, discussion.
Sure. You've written countless articles in Psychology Today and 3 books, one on menopause, one on motherhood in general, and one on parenting teens, all of which I'm so interested in reading about. But is there going to be another book?
Gosh, I've got several books in my head, JD, honestly. But right now it's a time thing. I'm doing lots of in-person presentations. Got a bunch coming up, actually. So I do have them in my head, yes. And I also write for Psychology Today. So those are a little bit shorter. And so I'm really kind of focused on the upcoming presentations, one of which is the Vermont Women's in Leadership Conference. Actually, that's in 2 weeks. So that's where my energy is going for the moment.
For the public listening right now, would they be able to see you, to experience maybe a lecture?
My upcoming, the Vermont Women's in Leadership one, that's happening on the 25th at the Snowflake. I'm not sure. I have no idea how many spots are left or things like that. But that's happening then, and they're popping up all over the place. I have a virtual one at Penn State. That doesn't help anybody, but they will be coming up in the future. That's what I have lined up for right now.
You've done a couple of TEDx talks. Did you enjoy them? Do you hope or wish that there may be a few more in the near future on the horizon?
No, that's a definitely. It's a time thing, but I was just thinking about that yesterday, actually, because I really like the in-person presenting thing, and I can't tell you how much I can't say enough about the communities at TEDx. The one in New Hampshire, some of the coolest, most genuine people I've ever met. Same thing with my U Street friends in Washington, D.C. I can't say enough about the experience. It was so good.
You were interested at one point of becoming a cardiologist or brain surgeon. What happened? And what are you doing now that is maybe a little bit of both?
Oh, that's a good question, Jay. I'm so impressed with your interviewing skills. What happened? I was pre-med, and I also knew that I would someday want to have a litter of children. And not that you can't do both. There are plenty of women out there who do both. I just knew that that was a large part of it, knowing that I wanted to be, especially, if you think of the past that you were talking about too, that plays into it, because I definitely had something going strong that I really wanted to have kids and love them and watch them grow and, be the mother I didn't really have, I think. And also, when it came down to the whole medical school idea, which got me very, very excited, because I love science. I didn't know that I wanted to put in all that time right away after undergrad. And there's a third thing too, and I really do. The doctor thing was authentic. I also realized that there was a part of that, even though it was authentic, an authentic interest. I realized way later as an adult that the immediate drive in the beginning, I think, had its roots in some ACOA issues, which, especially being the oldest, I'm proud prodigy of two alcoholic parents. The oldest one, the responsible one, that's a trait, as you may know, of the responsible child. Actually, I was a scapegoat, really, but the oldest one is that we often go into these professions, doctors, lawyers, things with uniforms often,
yeah,
police, because the message is, if you don't want me, you're sure as hell going to need me.
Wow.
And yeah, and that's very common, like the helping professions, firefighters, cops, all that, military, and it's not saying everybody in there, but it is a big draw, because if we felt we had a lack of honor as children, we look for the honor on the outside. And part of and again, I had an authentic interest, but I realized that there was some shame driving forces early on too.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. You're saying 3 months or so, and maybe significantly less, of simple daily gratitude writing, a list of just 3 things every day, 7 days a week, could have a profound, dare I say, cellular, physical effect on your cognition, on your brain, on your overall sense of receiving happiness, fighting depression and anxiety aggressively. True statement?
Oh, absolutely. It's not even that long. 21 days, and a habit starts to shift. Now, obviously, we say average, because if somebody's allowed, and the word is allow, that feedback loop to go on for longer, it's going to obviously take a little bit more time. But gratitude, quite honestly, is a straight ticket to happy. Straight ticket to happy. And people say, you don't understand. Yes, sure, of course I do. Of course I do. And the way I explain it is, if you picture a track meet. That's what I say to my students. Even if you didn't run in a track meet, everyone has seen a track meet, right? Lots of different teams, different uniforms, waiting for the same gun to go off, right, in the same race. You have your beastly runners up in front, middle crew, and then the back, maybe the ones that are in for socializing, keeping in shape or whatever. And the person with something extra to deal with, anxiety, depression, fill in the blank, addiction, whatever, is wearing a 25-pound weight belt no one else can see. But we're still running the same race, same guns going off, crossing the same finish line. And it might suck that you have to work harder at it, but it is still, in the end, a choice.
Wow. Amazing. Just incredible to hear you. How do we check out your podcast? Where is it? How do we find it?
Well, I can email you the link later, but basically you can Google it. It's Mind with a D, obviously. Mindcraft. There's a YouTube channel and also a podcast. It's also on Spotify, and it's also on Apple Play. Those are the audios. The YouTube one's obviously video. But it's on all of that. YouTube, Spotify, I forget the rest. CastBox, Apple Play.
Yeah.
And they're different. There's the audio one and there's a video one.
You're crushing it, Kimberly. You're crushing it.
I don't know about that.
Oh, you're crushing it. I think I think your administration over there at Champlain College is well aware of it. You are really creating something here that has taken off. Couldn't possibly be a better time for it too. With with the whole mask mandate thing. I mean, it's lifting. We're maybe seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but we've got some residual crap. Yeah. That is going to be hanging out in this culture for a long damn time.
Yep, big crap. Yeah.
We've got to get this figured out. We've got to rediscover ourselves and really grasp self-improvement and start making some change in our lives, even if it's quietly in our own homes, in our own heads to begin with.
Yeah, that's key, what you just said, JD. There's big crap going on for sure. Tons of isolation. I mean, to undo that damage is also going to be quite a while. But what you said is about the change. I mean, anything that's going to take us anywhere involves effort. And so to sit back and kind of wait for the clouds to part and the change fairy to wave a wand, that's not going to happen. Especially we've been so isolated and used to, going against human nature, which is to be connected. It takes kind of like I'm a runner, right? And in the fall it's easy, it's beautiful and everything. In the winter, getting off the couch to start up again, it's kind of like that feeling, like, oh, really?
Yeah.
It can be hard to get up and out the door. And that said, it takes pushing oneself to get going, and it will get easier. Just like anything else, it does get easier, but it's going to take a push right now after 2 years of isolation, and all the things young students had to deal with, and
Sure.
just all different for different age levels. But it might be a little bit of a heavy lift, but the only way out is through, as they say.
And consistency.
Consistency, like a good parent to yourself. Consistency and follow through. You got to first be aware of it. Just what I say to my students. We can't do what we don't know, obviously. Once we know better, though, we have a responsibility to do better. And I got a quote that came from Dr. Dave Landers. That's not my quote. Once we know better, we have a responsibility to do better.
Amazing. Final question to wrap up this afternoon. If someone listening right now is privately having a very difficult time, real challenging time, finding their glass half full, whether it be with their marriage, their kids, their job, their career, their self-identity, whatever it may be, what are your parting words for them right now?
Well, I guess I would say that one of the things about the change, I'm big on I'm very like anti-perfectionism, right? When we set the bar to do our best, that's when we can always reach. So if there's anybody out there and it's literally what your best is getting up and out the door and getting dressed, give yourself a gigantic pat on the back. And I'm not minimizing that or making any light of that, because our best is very relative to how our life circumstances. So constantly setting the bar to your best, because it's adjustable. And my 3 things as far as happiness in general would be these: be mindful, be grateful, and spend your money on experiences rather than stuff.
Wow. Kimberly, I hope to meet you.
I'd like to meet you too.
I hope that if you can make your way to the east and you find your way out of Burlington, out of Chittenden County, over here into the central Vermont Barrie area, that you will grace our microphones in your presence here at Fly on the Wall Productions on Main Street in Barrie.
Oh, gosh. Well, thank you so much for having me, JD. It was truly an honor and a privilege to do so.
We thank you so much. Thanks, Kimberly.
All right, bye-bye.
Amazing. Champlain College's guru of positive thinking, and wow, is that an understatement right there? What an honor it is to have the last 40 minutes or so with Kimberly Quinn. Unbelievable. Hey, don't forget about the time change this weekend. Don't forget about the Northern Lights tonight. We're supposed to be able to see them. So, not sure if that's going to happen with all the cloud cover. But Northern Lights, earmarked to be putting on a show, apparently, across parts of the Northeast on March 11th. So, and the sap run. There's going to be a lot of sap running and a lot of sugar houses that are going to be very busy. Worth saying, with the snowstorm coming this weekend, we've heard 4 to 8 inches, 5 to 12. I think I heard 8 to 15. Roger Hill, I've been in touch with him this afternoon. One of the busiest men in Vermont right now, tracking the storm, which is, of course, changing. So, with that said, I think guarantee that we're going to get the snow. How much exactly depends on where you are. But regardless of all of that, just be careful driving. Be careful out and about. If you have to be this weekend, don't crowd the plow. And be careful of plow trucks that are backing in and out of driveways and doing their thing to help us stay cleaned up this weekend. All right? Be well. God bless. Thank you so much. Kimberly Quinn, Champlain College's guru of positive thinking. If you want to read the full story, it's in the October issue of 7 Days that published this, and I've got the copy of it. I was something I might even laminate because it's fantastic. Thanks for catching the show. Thanks to our presenting sponsors. The list of all of them is right there in front of you. Take a gander at it, and thank them for supporting me, bringing you the Aired Out Podcast.